present a citation and the very first award from President's Award from the MCSA. This is a new program we began just this last year. It is my honor to present you with this very first Major County Sheriffs of America President's Citation and Award. This was created to recognize servant leaders who have positively impacted the Major County Sheriffs and consistently put service above self with a focus of keeping society safe. You empower law enforcement across this nation through your support, proving that the work of public safety is a top priority. Your keen intellect, dedication to the people of the United States, and personal accessibility to the sheriffs of this great nation are sincerely appreciated. You truly listen and involve the sheriffs in the decisions you make concerning public safety protocols. By engaging with the sheriffs who are on the front line combating evil people every day who prey on innocent victims and helping victims of crime, you ensure that we have the tools necessary to keep American communities safe. Under the direction of President Trump, you have demonstrated your strong support of law enforcement where it once waned. Your dedication to uphold the rule of law, reduce violent crime, demolish criminal gangs, and combat the ever-growing drug epidemic is evident with the appointment of the MCSA board member to the Presidential Commission on Law Enforcement and the Administration of Justice. You have once again proven your commitment to maintaining a positive and valued partnership with law enforcement agencies across the United States. By partnering with the Major County Sheriffs of America, you have strengthened efforts to focus on public safety challenges associated with warrant-proof encryption. And under your direction, you convened a summit on this issue, ensuring the Major County Sheriffs were recognized as subject area experts on the topic. You have provided us with the opportunity to sit at the conference table with you and resolve criminal justice issues together. Your decisions are sound and designed in the best interest of our nation. America is better because you are our Attorney General. On behalf of the Executive Board and the members of the Sheriffs of MCSA, I present you with this citation and the MCSA 2019 President's Award for your commitment to the safety and security of the American people. May God continue to bless you in your work as you ensure inclusion, fairness, equality, and professionalism as we all work together to keep the people of this country safe. And the citation? And the award. Very first. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your introduction, Grady, and I can't tell you how grateful I am to be the recipient of your award, especially the inaugural award, the very first award. It's a true honor. And it's an honor for me to meet with you all today here at the Willard. I've spent many happy times in this room, including two of my daughter's weddings were held in this room. One just a year ago, the day before I was announced as Attorney General. And this is a happy occasion for me because my relationship with you goes back 30 years when I was at Justice Department before. And my watchword then was that we have to work together as a strong team. Nothing was more important to me than our relationships with you and other state and local law enforcement. And I set up a unit in those days that would have constant outreach and communication and a completely open door, an open conference room table for you and for our other partners. And I reinstituted that when I returned to the department. So it's really a privilege for me to have this reunion with you. Not quite a wedding, but still a happy occasion. I can't help but remember now, for those of you who may have seen my Notre Dame speech, I'll be repetitive and tell a little vignette because it happened here a year ago. The president was considering me, and my daughter was getting married on December 8th, and he had originally planned to announce it afterward, but on December 7th, he was walking out to the helicopters, and he called me up, and he said, hey, I'm just walking out to the helicopters, and I think I'd like to announce it now. Would that be okay? I know your daughter's getting married tomorrow. So I said, yeah, sure, you can do that. We've talked it over, and whatever is right for you, we're fine with. So that was sort of a outer body experience for me, because I turned on the television, and there he was announcing me by the helicopter as Attorney General. So the next day, when we were having the wedding reception here, my daughter said to me, Pop, you're the only father I know who would upstage his daughter at his own wedding. But when I was toasting them, I said, Meg, it's really okay, because just as the name Barr is about to be dragged through the mud, you're changing your name to McGaughey. We have no higher priority at the department than the safety and security of this country. And as I said, we can only accomplish that in close partnership with you. This administration is dedicated to strengthening that partnership, enhancing our cooperation, and delivering the resources that our state, local, and tribal partners need to succeed. Each of you has selflessly chosen to devote your lives to law enforcement. And as I have said many times before, there is no more noble profession in our country today than serving as a law enforcement officer. You and your deputies face unprecedented challenges. Every day, at the beginning of the day, deputies head out on patrol, never knowing precisely what trials they will face. And the list of assignments we give our deputies and our officers keeps getting longer and longer. We no longer merely ask them to keep us safe. We ask them to manage the fallout from a vast range of social pathologies, such as mental illness and widespread homelessness, drug abuse. And it's quite a lot to ask men and women trained to protect the public from dangerous criminals to simultaneously do that job and the job of social workers and psychiatrists. Yet our committed law enforcement officers do their best to carry on these ever-expanding duties. This administration understands that. And rest assured that we will continue to have your back as we work together to protect the public. A week ago, President Trump delivered his third State of the Union address, and he said there, as he has said many times before, that we need to support the men and women of law enforcement at every level. And indeed, I think I can safely say that our law enforcement people in the United States have no greater champion than President Trump. And we all know that unlike most politicians, when this president promises to do something, he does it. He loves this country. He especially loves you and those who strive every day to keep the American people safe. In his State of the Union, President Trump delivered a message of genuine optimism filled with an unapologetic faith in God, in American greatness, and in the common virtues of the American people: altruism, industriousness, self-reliance, and generosity. But he also emphasized something that I fully believe. That is that the people cannot enjoy freedom or achieve prosperity without the rule of law to protect them. And there can be no rule of law without brave deputies and police officers on the front lines upholding it. Our shared commitment to the rule of law is central to the Department of Justice initiatives in which many of you participate. The Project Safe Neighborhood, Operation Relentless Pursuit, Project Guardian. They're all working to reduce crime across our country. And together we've been battling gun violence, gangs, human trafficking. We're aggressively fighting the drug war. As the President mentioned last week, we've begun to successfully overcome the opioid epidemic. Drug overdose deaths have declined for the first time in nearly 3 decades. We have a lot more work to do, but it's good to see that some progress is being made. And we are escalating our fight on the scourge of methamphetamines, which I know are affecting so many of your jurisdictions. Last month, we implemented President Trump's executive order directing us to establish the President's Commission on Law Enforcement and the Administration of Justice. This is the first commission on law enforcement since President Lyndon Johnson's commission in 1965, and I think we can all agree it's long overdue. This commission is bringing together all of the law enforcement community of our country to study the unique challenges facing us today and develop strategies to address them. And I'm looking forward to working with major county sheriffs on this important effort. I know the department's grant funding provides crucial support to state and local law enforcement. After I took office, I directed the Office of Justice Programs and COPS to implement a series of changes designed to streamline the grant-making process. It was brought to my attention that some jurisdictions are forgoing grant opportunities because of the onerous application and compliance requirements. I directed both OJP and COPS to reduce those burdens. To this end, COPS is decreasing the number of monitoring reports on an agency is subject to from quarterly to semi-annually, and it is my intent that we go to yearly reporting. Additionally, COPS has reduced the length of its grant applications by 40%. More can and will be done. We are trying to be responsive to the field, and the feedback we receive from our listening sessions conducted by COPS and the Bureau of Justice Assistance has been invaluable. Your comments on violent crime issues, on the meth epidemic, and the grant application process and its frustrations are being addressed. Lastly, I am aware that the funding a sheriff ultimately receives from our grants is significantly reduced because of state and local government pass-through costs. I support your request for sheriffs to have access to direct funding, which would alleviate the administrative burdens and costs of the current system. Now let me turn my attention to 2 substantial challenges to the rule of law we face today: so-called sanctuary jurisdictions and what I've been calling the rogue DAs, who undermine rather than advance our ability to carry out effective law enforcement. We will only be able to effectively support our overburdened police and sheriffs and overcome their daunting challenge if state, federal, local law enforcement agencies trust each other and work together. But some state and local politicians have taken the precise opposite approach. Rather than work together with federal law enforcement to discharge our shared duties, they do everything they can to impede the federal government. The politicians who have established sanctuary jurisdictions apparently believe it is more important to help criminal aliens evade the law than it is to protect the safety of their law-abiding citizens. And I want to be clear what we are talking about. These policies are designed to protect and do protect criminal aliens. That is, aliens whom state and local police have arrested for committing crimes. These policies have nothing to do with people who came to this country illegally but have otherwise tried to be productive and peaceful members of our society. The very purpose of the sanctuary policies is to release criminals onto the streets rather than turn them over to federal law enforcement for deportation as federal law requires. Americans everywhere bear the cost of these policies. Innocent people are threatened and hurt by criminal aliens whom local jurisdictions have set free in the face of a federal immigration detainer. Law enforcement officers in the field are put in harm's way when criminals are freed rather than deported. And tragically, it is often the very immigrant communities that these policies supposedly protect who are most harmed when criminal aliens are returned to the streets. These sorts of sanctuary policies also put several of you in impossible positions. State and local political leaders pass laws or enact policies that forbid you from cooperating or providing information to federal law enforcement. And you are then caught between these misguided rules and your duty to protect your community by turning over criminals to federal law enforcement. But help is on the way. We at the Justice Department believe, and are currently arguing in court, that many of the laws and rules in sanctuary jurisdictions are unlawful. States do not have the power to regulate the presence of aliens in the United States in a way that obstructs Congress's regulation of aliens. The Department of Justice has therefore taken concrete steps to eliminate the dangerous laws and policies in these sanctuary jurisdictions. Foremost, the department sued the state of California to enjoy numerous state laws that attempt to frustrate federal immigration enforcement. We prevailed on several of our claims in the lower courts, and we are hopeful that the Supreme Court will grant our request to review the remaining issues and side with us against California's obstructionist policies. The department yesterday filed a complaint, this was yesterday, against the state of New Jersey, seeking declaratory and injunctive relief against its laws that forbid state and local law enforcement from sharing vital information about criminal aliens with the DHS. Yesterday, we also filed a complaint seeking declaratory and injunctive relief against King County, Washington State, which includes the city of Seattle, for a policy it recently adopted that forbids DHS from deporting aliens from its county airport. We have filed legal briefs in dozens of cases at the federal, state, and local level to defend the lawful authority of our state and local colleagues to work with DHS. We filed the most recent brief about 2 weeks ago to support Sheriff Robert A. Nolan of Cape May County, New Jersey. We are reviewing the practices, policies, and laws of other jurisdictions across the country and across the board. This includes assessing whether jurisdictions are complying with our criminal laws, in particular, the criminal laws that prohibit the harboring or shielding of aliens in the United States. We are supporting DHS in its efforts to use all lawful means to obtain the information it needs to carry out its mission, and that includes the use of federal subpoenas to access information about criminal aliens in the custody of uncooperative jurisdictions. We have taken and will take all appropriate action in federal court to ensure compliance with these federal subpoenas. We have prioritized our discretionary grant programs to give preference to jurisdictions that cooperate with federal immigration enforcement efforts, and the Ninth Circuit has upheld our authority to do this. We are continuing to fight for our authority to condition certain formula grants upon compliance with all applicable federal laws, including statutes prohibiting states from enacting laws and policies that restrict information sharing with the federal government. And we have made clear to various jurisdictions that public areas relating to public facilities like courthouses must be accessible to federal law enforcement officers. The Department of Justice will continue to be vigilant and will take action against any jurisdiction or individual politician who unlawfully obstructs the enforcement of federal immigration laws. Another similar problem that we face today is the increasing number of district attorneys who have fashioned for themselves a new role of judge, legislator, and prosecutors in the name of social reform. These self-styled social justice reformers are refusing to enforce entire categories of laws, including laws against resisting police officers. In doing this, these DAs are putting everyone in danger. Their policies are pushing a number of American cities back toward a more dangerous past. Under the district attorney in Philadelphia, the murder rate in that city is at its highest point in over a decade. Other cities with these progressive DAs, like San Francisco, Seattle, St. Louis, Chicago, and Baltimore, have suffered historic levels of homicide and other violent crime. This is while crime generally nationwide is going down. The policies of these DAs strike at the very root of our law enforcement system. Our system is based on a graduated response. When we impose increasingly severe punishments based on an individual's criminal history, this means we have to have accurate criminal histories if we're going to be able to protect the community. Even if we're going to be lenient for early and petty offenses, we still need those offenses charged and recorded so we know who we are dealing with as time moves on. Our whole system is undermined by the practice of ignoring entire categories of criminal offenses. The policies of these DAs also sabotage the effectiveness of community policing and precision policing, which depend heavily on obtaining information from members of the community. When DAs engage in a catch and release and revolving door policy, people in the neighborhood who might otherwise provide information are scared to come forward. These innocent people are rightly worried that the offender will be right back out on the street in a position to do them harm. In some jurisdictions, we are already seeing effective policing that has taken decades of painstaking work to build being dramatically undermined. Just in New York the other day, the case involving the MS-13 member, where a member of the community provided evidence and was killed by a MS-13 member who was released under the new legal reforms in New York State. These DAs think they're helping people, but they end up hurting them. These policies lead to greater criminality by offenders themselves, which harms the very people these DAs say they're trying to help. Not always, but often enough, early intervention can help, especially with young people, by allowing young lawbreakers entirely off the hook for the first time, or the second time, or even the third time. These DAs are potentially placing them on a conveyor belt to further and heightened criminality. That puts these young people at even greater peril, both on the street and from other criminals and from law enforcement, when these young offenders graduate from petty offenses to more serious ones, as many will, if there is no intervention early on. We have seen these policies before. They reigned supreme at the state level from the 1960s up to the early 1990s. And during this time, violent crime rates tripled in this country. They peaked in 91 and 92. By that time, the country had had enough. And following the lead of the Reagan and H.W. Bush administrations, the states started to make their systems tougher on crime. and stopped the revolving door justice that was feeding the skyrocketing crime rates in the United States. We understood that because crime, particularly violent crime, is committed by a small segment of our population, repeat offenders need to be taken off the streets. Federal, state, and local law enforcement formed a strong partnership 30 years ago to get these violent offenders off the streets and to keep them off the streets. And we had tremendous success. Since 1992, violent crime was cut in half nationwide. It went up a bit in the last 2 years of the Obama administration, but since the beginning of the Trump administration, we have succeeded in pushing it back down, and it is still going down. We cannot allow all the hard work over the last 30 years to be undone by the wrong-headed policies of these so-called reform DAs. We have to strengthen our partnership and stand together as never before. We have to be a strong voice for sensible law enforcement policies that protect our communities from violent predators. Our freedom depends on the ability to preserve the rule of law, and I thank you, and the department thanks you, and the American people thank you for dedicating your lives to defending the rule of law. Once again, I appreciate very deeply this award and that you have shared your time with me today, and I eagerly look forward to working closely with you and your colleagues in state and local law enforcement as we work together in the name of justice. God bless you.